Welcome back to the news today. Former Likud minister and Netanyahu opponent Gideon Saar took aim at the government today at a security summit, lambasting what he called Israel's do-nothing approach, which he said has left the country isolated. But at the same conference, Dor Gold, the current Director General of the Foreign Ministry, noted that Israel has behind-the-scenes contacts with almost every Arab state. All this prompts the question, is Israel really becoming the pariah of the world? Or is it talk of being isolated mere hyperbole? Joining me to discuss are Dr. Hani Zubeida, Chair of the Politics Department at the Israel Valley Academic College. Good evening.
Good evening, Ayman.
I-24 News correspondent and analyst Mohammed Al-Qasim. Good evening.
Good evening.
And joining me again is Ali Hachenberg, our diplomatic correspondent for the news today. Good evening again, Ali.
Good evening.
Dr. Zubeida, new allies for Israel, supposedly, if we believe what was said at the conference today. Will this change Israel's strategic standing in the region?
Well, I think Israel has to examine and re-examine its stand in the Middle East on a constant basis these last few days. One thing which happens, we don't call it a war, but there is a war in the Middle East. It's an oil war, and the Saudis are trying to do something that was never done before and drop the price of a barrel oil under $20, which they would like to hurt the Iranians, which now are talking back to the United States, which are now in debate with the Russians, which are now trying to help some other countries in the Middle East. So Israel has to be on its toes on a constant basis. The question is whether Israel has anything left in the tank to build bridges between Israel and other countries in the Middle East. Now, Dor Gold, from the ministry, the foreign ministry in Israel, said something which I didn't believe, but I had to hear it. And he said, we have behind-the-scene contacts with almost all the Arab countries, which is nice. Now, the next step is maybe have these negotiations or contacts in front of the scene and try to get to some sort of an agreement. I don't really know what they're planning, but I do know one thing. The Middle East now is moving. Things are shaking. Everything is moving around. We've spoken about Sykes-Picot here before that. We spoke about the fact that the states in the Middle East are not really states, and there's something that was made by the colonial powers back in the days. And now we need to look and see what happens. I don't know whether Israel has the opportunity or the possibilities or even the resources to change anything. We'll have to see how it plays.
Ali, Dr. Zubeida mentions that he was surprised that someone admitted that there are behind the scenes negotiations between Israel and other Arab countries in the Middle East. It has been kind of an open secret for quite some time.
It is.
What are Israel's interests?
It is indeed an open secret. I think it's a very good definition of the situation. And only yesterday we hear reports about the current energy minister and someone Netanyahu trusts dearly, Yuval Steinitz, traveling to Saudi Arabia. The formal reason was an energy conference or a renewable energy conference or this or that headline. But the bottom line is that Israel is indeed in contact with Saudi Arabia. And in the middle of this gap, in this rift between Riyadh and Tehran, which Israel is, of course, maybe the most vocal opponent of Iran and the nuclear agreement in particular, Israel and Saudi Arabia can definitely take advantage of this escalating tensions and make a move to strengthen ties. What's something that the United States will probably not be too glad to hear, that this is indeed gaining momentum, but it's also not a bad thing, neither for Israel nor the Saudi Arabia, to anger a bit Washington.
And Mohammed, while Israel is being sometimes lambasted by the EU, we talked about this yesterday, labeling products from outside the 1967 borders, and relations with the U.S. are somewhat strained. What interest would the Arab world have in establishing relations with Israel?
Well, let's just differentiate between what interest does the Arab world has to start a relationship with Israel and what does the Arab governments have in creating interest or a relationship with Israel. First of all, it's not a secret anymore. The genie is out of the bottle. Israel has publicly, and Arab officials from the Gulf mainly, have been meeting publicly with Israeli officials. It's not a secret anymore. We've seen last summer in Washington, D.C., where Anwar al-Ashki, a former general in the Saudi army, and who's also a very close advisor to the King Salman, met with Gold in Washington Washington. They talked about many things. Even I-24 News interviewed Mr. Eshki before, and he even complimented Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying that he's a courageous and strong man of peace who could actually, if taken the Arab Initiative of 2012 and adapting it, may push this normalization of relationship between Israel and the Arab world forward. This is not going to happen. And that's why I mentioned these normalization are being done between the Israeli government and Arab governments, which means Israel should learn from past history. These are not strong alliances. Israel is better off having its old historical ally of the United States, as well as Europeans who want eventually what's best for Israel and Israel's future and its existence, which is basically achieve and reach a final agreement with the Palestinians to put down all these complaints or excuses of as long as the Palestinian issue is unsolved or unresolved, the Arab world cannot have normalization with Israel.
And you mean this because the Arab governments are not stable? What we've seen in the
since
past
2011, we've seen we are witnessing the so-called Arab Spring that turns into somewhat of a disaster. It's basically turned the Middle East into a chaotic region. We've seen what Syria is going through. We still see what Syria is going through now. Iraq has been disseminated into way too many countries. The only stable countries now out of this Arab Spring is Tunisia, and that's even not for sure. So it's better off for Israel to deal with the people and the public of the Middle East and the Arab world rather than these governments who are very unstable. We have new borders being drawn in the Middle East now. The Sunni Gulf countries and whatever other countries stand behind them on their side, and the Shiite-led alliance with Iran and also Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Shiite-led government in Iraq.
And Dr. Zubaydah, on the point of Israel being isolated, so to speak, from the EU and the US, just yesterday the EU approved the resolution to label these products that we discussed before, but the ramifications could be way more than economic.
Yeah, of course, but there's something that I would like to kind of like clarify. The issue is here. Yesterday, the EU 3 days ago came out with the decision to label the products. And yesterday we had the American ambassador saying harsh things, extremely harsh things. Now, we have to remember, my surprise was not the fact that we have behind-the-scene relationship with the Arab countries. My surprise was that Dori Gold, an extreme hawkish person, NGO monitor, let's remind people, Bar-Ilan University, the person who sat at the head of an institute which delineated why Israel should not go into negotiation with the Palestinians, was the one who admitted it. Okay, this is crucial. We have to remember who's the foreign minister of Israel. It's this guy right over here. He's the prime minister and the foreign minister, which is completely chaotic. I think what they did today was exactly because what Dan Shapiro said yesterday, and was exactly because what the EU said 3 days ago. This is a reaction to an extreme case in which Israel can find itself isolated from Europe and the United States. Israel cannot afford this. It's not about labeling products. This is not the issue. The issue is that Israel is trying for a long, long time to be accepted into the EU at a better stand than an observer. Israel done that by joining the OECD, which became a catastrophe because every time Israel comes last at every index of social equality, racial equality, and national equality. And now Israel is trying to make a move towards the EU. Now, being isolated from the EU is a major blow. 2 days after the EU is presenting, a showcase of legislation which will label products from Israel, the American ambassador lashes out at the Israeli government, at the INSS, which is the Israeli National Security Studies Center. Israel has to do something. I think this was exactly the thing that was the reaction to the last 2 days. I think Dori Gold is an extreme hawkish. He's not saying we're going towards an agreement or something, but what he is saying that maybe the EU and the United States don't have the full picture in a changing Middle East, of course.
But it's not something new each and every time when Israel felt it is pressured a bit too much by the Europeans or the Americans.
Agreed.
They pulled out the card of the, we have relations with the Saudis, and if we will take the Arab initiative, and that will be the cause for peace, eventually you will eat your hat.
Has it
Agreed.
helped before when Israel did this move?
Well, listen, first of all, today there was a fence-mending meeting between Shapiro and Netanyahu. He was escorting this delegation of congressmen to meet Netanyahu, and they met for about half an hour to clarify things and clear the air. The thing is, first of all, we need to debate on the basic fact that a diplomat, an ambassador, criticize the political strategy of a different country. I'm not sure that if it wasn't the United States and Israel, it would have been received so peacefully. And second of all, if you mentioned hawkish personas in the Israeli administration lashing out at Netanyahu, what Bennett said, his coalition member, about the freeze in the state of mind of Israel, the fact that it does not initiate everything, that it's only reacting to reality and not triggering reality. This is, I think, is a much more substantial criticism, something that Netanyahu, besides saying that this is something I've said before, cannot resist, because it is a stagnation that Israel is suffering from.
I'm not really sold on the idea here that Israel was reacting to what Shapiro said. I think maybe this is part of it, but it's not a very strong reaction to this strong statement by Ambassador Shapiro. I think Gold was forced to come out and say what he said, because having this international sustainable energy committee based in Abu Dhabi now, which has been in the planning since 2010, and Israel lobbied for it, not wanting it to go to Germany then, because that forces United Arab Emirates to open a diplomatic mission for every country that is a member including Israel, which, knowing Gold, and this has been in the planning for many, many years. Now, in another thing, the United States, and what Shapiro said yesterday isn't new. In 2011, specifically in March of 2011, the then defense minister, Leon Panetta, the United States defense minister said that Israel is isolating itself. That was 5 years ago. So this isn't new. Many European diplomats have said that, and basically that's a reaction to the policies of Prime Minister Netanyahu. So what we saw yesterday isn't really a huge surprise. One more thing, El Salvador now is threatening to move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Ramallah, because it's very unhappy with how Israel is treating El Salvador. Israel is losing friends, throughout the world, by the way.
Problem. Let me just remind one thing. If it was a different ambassador, today there wouldn't be 20-minute clarification discussion. It would have been a reprimanding. Yes,
Exactly.
definitely.
Exactly.
The other thing, there are problems within the government, and I go back to Dori Gold, who is a member of the National Religious Right. He is a religious man, and today Alon answered the Security Minister of Israel. He said about Bennett that he's childish, irresponsible, and he's after headlines and likes in Facebook, which means that we are heading towards some sort of a crisis. Yes, I do know that this has been in the bag for a long time, but it is not any timing. This is specific timing. Today, if it wasn't Dan Shapiro, we would have seen a major blowout between Israel and the U.S. It's not Dan Shapiro who's saying those things. Let's be blunt about it.
It's the Obama
This is
administration, it's the
exactly.
White House.
This is the Obama administration. This is a direct order from the White House. You need to go stand up at the INSS, which is a crucial institute in the Israeli strategy planning. Let's not forget that a lot of the military personnel and a lot of the old institutionalized Israel security forces go into the INSS, and they were there when Dan Shapiro said whatever he had to say. So I think,
but maybe this could be the push that the United States wanted to give Israel to restart the peace process. Everyone is worried now. Everyone is worried that the Palestinian Authority may be at the verge of collapsing, and if that happens, or if what we are seeing in the Palestinian territories since middle of September of last year turns into a full intifada, then maybe we're about to witness something bigger than what Israel, the Palestinian Authority, and others can handle. So maybe the American administration are trying to put the brakes on what is happening here, and trying maybe to shake Prime Minister Netanyahu and saying re-examine your policies with the Palestinians.
But while the U.S. has been doing that for a while now, if we hear again right-wing members within Netanyahu's government, within Netanyahu's administration saying those things, this is a really a huge red alert to Netanyahu's strategy or lack of strategy in our case.
And finally, Ellie, you mentioned Obama. It's his last year in office.
Yeah.
Is it any chance of him repairing relations with Netanyahu completely gone by now?
I think he will be very happy to end this relationship. Obama, I mean, of course, Netanyahu will stay here for a while now, but no, this is it.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen and lady, at least between us here, there are no secret relations. It's a very open relationship.
We all love each other.
I'm very glad you were here with me tonight
Thank
for
you
this
very much.
interesting talk. Thank you very much. That's it for the news today. We are done for tonight. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place from the Jaffa Port. Be sure to join us then. Good night.